We see over and over in these stories how people clutch their truths, live their lives in their imaginations. It's almost a human condition in these stories where the imagination overtakes reality, which in itself actually is beautiful, except for when it's misused and causes harm to self and others. In the case of the story we've just read previously, where Helen White and Seth Richmond imagine themselves in a relationship and then imagine themselves not in a relationship, no harm, no foul. They both move on with their lives. Unlike Adventure, which actually didn't turn out so badly, she led a perfectly good life, just not with Ned, which it doesn't seem like she really wanted, and he lived a perfectly good life. So I suppose that one turned out as well. They live in their imaginations, and things turn out okay. Unlike Godliness, where the imagination overtakes reality and does harm to it, damage to it, as they try to make their imaginary world real, they harm the actual world and the actual people around them. The untold lie is interesting because it's a potential harm, but no harm is done. And it's actually an experience I think we've all had, and that is of, this is the life I have, but what if I had a different life? I think we all have moments when we think that. So it's the story of the untold lie, and until the end of the story, we're not going to know what the lie is that doesn't get told. And actually, is it a lie if you don't tell it? We end up with a conundrum. If you never tell them the lie, have you actually lied? Can you think a lie and not say it? But it's the story of Ray Pearson and Hal Winters. Now, Ray's a very serious fellow, and he's married with a little sharp-featured wife who also had a sharp voice, and they have half a dozen thin-legged children. That would be 6 children living in a tumble-down frame house beside a creek at the back of the Wills farm where Ray was employed. So he's a laborer on the farm. He obviously doesn't make very much money because they live in a tumble-down house and the children have thin legs. All children have thin legs, but these are probably thinner. They perhaps don't have a lot of food. Hal Winters, on the other hand, was not of the Ned Winters family, who were very respectable people in Winesburg, but he's one of the Wind Peter Winters children, who is a reprobate. He's a no good guy. They drink, they get in fights. These Winters are no good guys. So Hal Winters is your crazy, causing trouble in the streets kid, and Ray is a serious man who's married with 6 kids and works hard to feed them. These two work together, and they have a moment where the story is about where Hal tells Ray that Hal has gotten his girl pregnant. And at that very moment, Ray is looking out at the field, and he's thinking about when he was young and he had no responsibility. He didn't have a wife, didn't have 6 kids. He thinks about how he'd gone out into the meadow with this woman, and as always happens in Winesburg, apparently when you go into a meadow, they have sex, and she gets pregnant, and he got married, and now he has 6 kids and a wife and a job, and he's responsible. So Ray is looking out at the field, and he was in a sad and distracted mood, affected by the beauty of the country. If you knew the Winesburg country in the fall, and how the low hills are all splashed with yellows and reds, you would understand his feeling. He began to think of the time long ago when he was a young fellow living with his father, then a baker in Winesburg, and how on such days he had wandered away into the woods to gather nuts, hunt rabbits, or just to loaf about and smoke his pipe. His marriage had come about through one of his days of wandering, so he remembers when he was free and he could just wander around and do what he'd wanted before he'd gone out with this woman and gotten married. Meanwhile, Hal starts telling him, has a fellow got to do it? Has he got to be harnessed up and driven through life like a horse? Do we have to get married and work hard to support kids? Notice he describes it as being a beast of burden, working all day. But Hal is sort of laughing, but he's too earnest. He's really thinking about, should I get married? And at the same time, Ray is thinking, why did I get married? I could still be wandering, which is actually not true. He had to, I suppose, get a job, right? But Hal tells him, I've got Nell Gunther in trouble, which means pregnant. I'm telling you, but keep your mouth shut. And he's trying to decide what to do, which kept Ray thinking about, what if I'd never got married? Ray, and Hal says to him, you know me, Ray. There can't anyone break me, but I can break myself. Nobody can make me do anything I don't want, but I can make myself do it. Shall I do it, or shall I tell Nell to go to the devil? Come on, you tell me. Whatever you say, Ray, I'll do. Should I marry Nell and have the baby with her? I'll do whatever you want, Ray. And Ray, because he's at this moment thinking, why can't I be more free? Can't answer. He hasn't got an answer, and he just keeps thinking about it. He couldn't make out what was wrong. Every time he raised his eyes and saw the beauty of the country and the failing life, he wanted to do something he'd never done before, shout or scream or hit his wife with his fists or something equally unexpected and terrifying. Along the path he went scratching his head and trying to make it out. He looked hard at his wife's back, but she seemed all right. His wife's just walking along saying, you need to get groceries, our kids are hungry. You're not focusing. And he's thinking about when he was free and young and not married and feeling angry, all because the beauty of the countryside has made him think of his youth, and also Hal's situation. Should I get married? Should I be driven like a horse through the streets dragging a cart? That is my wife and children behind me. And then Ray gets into an outburst. There was no promise made, he cried into the empty spaces that lay about him. I didn't promise my Minnie anything, and Hal hasn't made any promise to Nell. I know he hasn't. She went into the woods with him because she wanted to go. What he wanted, she wanted. Why should I pay? Why should Hal pay? Why should anyone pay? I don't want Hal to become old and worn out. I'll tell him. I won't let it go on. I'll catch Hal before he gets to town, and I'll tell him. So he's decided, we didn't promise these women anything. We all just went out and had sex willingly, and a baby come from it. Why should we have to get married and raise the babies with them? I'm going to go tell Hal he doesn't have to do this. So Ray starts running towards Hal. I must catch Hal and tell him. All of his thoughts are caught up on this. They're the accident of life, Hal, he cried. They are not mine or yours. I had nothing to do with them. He is talking about his children. They're accidents of life. Like you're just living your life and you accidentally have children. They're not yours. They just occur. So he has this moment of just disowning, as it were, his children and wife in his imagination. He's sobbing and running through the fields, trying to find Hal. He finds Hal all dressed up. Hal sees him and says, wait, you came to tell me, huh? Hal says, well, never mind telling me anything. I'm not a coward, and I've already made up my mind. Hal laughed again and jumped across the ditch. Nell ain't no fool, he said. She didn't ask me to marry her. I want to marry her. I want to settle down and have kids. So Hal has been thinking about this, and he assumes that Ray, the serious man with the 6 kids and the wife who seems happy, has come to tell him, you've got to marry Nell, and you've got to have the baby, and this is what you want, when actually Ray has come to say, don't do it, don't get married and have babies, you don't have to do this, live a free life and wander. And Ray starts laughing. He felt like laughing at himself and all the world, because Hal has so misunderstood what he thinks he's going to say to him. Hal thinks that he's going to say, you got to marry her, and Ray was going to say, don't do it, don't marry her. So Ray just lets it go. Hal disappeared into the dusk. He goes off. He's going to get married to Nell and have the baby. And Ray starts thinking about it. And as he went, some memory of pleasant evenings spent with thin-legged children in the tumble-down house by the creek must have come into his mind. For he muttered words, it's just as well. Whatever I told him would have been a lie, he said softly. And then his form also disappeared into the darkness of the fields. So it would have been a lie. He's thinking, I've had a pleasant life with my children and my wife. For that moment, I felt I want to be free and wander as when I was young. But that wasn't the real truth of his life. The real truth is that this is the life he chose, and it will be the life that Hal will choose as well, who I suppose will also have a moment later in his life when he thinks, what have I done? Is this my wife and children? Can I get away from them? So it's a sort of midlife crisis story. It's a story of thinking, what if I'd taken a different path? And then it's a story of, this is the path I took, and this path has been an okay path too. So it's fitting to end our collection of selections from Winesburg here with this recognition that the imagination can go all different places and your life goes a few places, and that's okay. What you don't want is to do what the Bentleys and the had done and the Hardys have done and let the imaginary destroy the real. You want to live life with the truths, but not let the truths make life unlivable. And onward these two go to live their lives. And that's the Winesburg stories that we're reading for this collection. We'll have more conversations about these before our test. I'll be curious to see what you think of these characters and their imaginations. Thank you. Bye.